So why did you set your agency up then?
Well, I was a management accountant for a sort of leading estate agent in Derby, and they took on the franchise of Professional Properties back in 1999. The franchise side of it didn't go particularly well because they ended up with 2 and then stopped. We bought it out effectively, and it was owned by Ashley Adams. I carried on doing the management accounts. My wife Susan was brought in to run the business. 30 properties at the time, I think it was, and it sort of grew. It grew from there, and then back in 2007, Susan and I bought the shares from Ashley Adams and owned it fully.
Why did you buy the business out yourself?
We saw the potential. It was a two-way thing because the owners of Ashley Adams wanted to concentrate on the estate agency side, because it was obviously seen a bit more lucrative at the time. We've been involved in property forever. We saw the opportunity within the market, although we had to remortgage the house to buy the shares, but it's proved the right thing to do.
How did you feel about putting the house on the line for a letting agency?
Yeah, it was obviously very concerning, brave, stupid. I don't know how we felt at the time, probably all of those things, but we just it's one of those. I work for Ashley Adams. I've seen how the guys progress to own the business. We wanted to do something ourselves. I've always wanted to own my own business instead of work for other people. I think it's the only way you progress. And although it was a risk, we thought it was a calculated risk at the time, and took the plunge.
So you basically put your house on the line. You threw all your cards into the thing. I mean, what did you hope to get out of being your own agent, being your own boss? Because I tell you here and now, I don't know about you, it's bloody hard work.
Yeah, it is hard work, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I saw the success of the property businesses at the time, and I know a lot's changed since then to where we are now. But it was just something that we wanted to do. We were passionate about. We thought we were okay at it. We got a lot of experience, although not directly. I was on the financial side, but I'd seen how it all worked.
What sort of hopes did you when you set up, back in '99 or 2006? What hopes did you have of being your own agent? Where did you see it taking you and your family?
Well, I suppose at the time you sort of never sort of looked beyond too far, and at the time I think there were 6 agents in Derby.
6? Wow.
6.
Wow.
So you thought at the time.
How many are there now?
Well, that's it. You thought at the time you've got a pretty good chance of breaking into the market, and I think the last time I looked on Rightmove, it was something like 62 or something silly like that. But obviously that includes different branches of the same agent, but a lot more than 6. So although we were confident at the time, we never sort of looked past the end of the next week. It was like, get as many landlords on as we can, provide the best service we possibly can. The theory being, with that many agents in the town, that we would attract new business.
But what were your hopes for your family by being your own boss? Did you want to? Well, what did you want? Did you want a better work-life balance? Did you want to go on more holidays, fancy cars? What were your hopes of being your own boss? Because let's be honest, putting your house on the line is a big.
Yeah, I think I'll be perfectly honest. At the time, that wasn't the thought. We had a son who was born in sort of 94, which sort of was obviously 5 years after we started, but there was never really any thought about where am I going to be in 2015, for example. We just sort of went ahead, wanted to build a successful business, and hopefully the opportunities for making a better life will present themselves.
And so lots of hopes, appreciating that you put your house on the line. So, but you must have had some fears that, is this going to work, or just?
Lots of fears, but as I said before, if it was easy, everybody would do it. I think you have to we've all seen the Dragon's Dens, we've all seen the people that do these sort of things, and we've all seen the entrepreneurs who say this is how they started. And I think you've got to take that lead, and you've got to, there's got to be an element of risk, but it's got to be a risk that you think you can handle.
So so you've done the hopes, you've done the fears. What were the dreams? What did you think you would get out of being your own boss, running an own letting agency?
I think at the time, it's like not having the 9 till 5:30 grind. And that's the first thing that I certainly thought about. You know, I'll be able to go home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and put my feet up.
We all think that when you're in business,
well,
don't you?
Absolutely, and obviously it didn't take long for that sort of notion to sort of get buried, because it's not like that. But it is knowing that every bit of time and every bit of money or every bit of everything you put into it is yours, or can be yours at the end of the day, and it's not somebody else's.
Did you like the fact that you're building something?
Yeah, that was it. That was one of the big things. It's building something for the future. I mean, you look back at pensions. A lot of my friends had pensions when they were very young. I wanted, rather than to put money away for a pension, I wanted to put it into something I could build, possibly for the kids.
Because are the family in the business then?
Yeah, James, my son, he's 21. He's in our property management team. If I ran through the whole family connections in the business, we'd be here for a while. Well, the sort of mother-in-law works in the accounts department. She's been with us from day one. We've got lots of family connections. My brother-in-law, Susan's sister, they run the Burton branch as husband and wife. We've got another mother and daughter working for it. We've got 2 mothers and daughters working for it. So the family connections is big. That's really helped us, because, you know, we're a team. We've had a lot of people with us for a long time, which helps build the relationships up. Landlords love that. Chopping and changing, they don't like in a traditionally chopping and changing industry. So we've kept a lot of people, and they've grown with us. We try and say that people work with us, not for us, because if it wasn't for the people, then you don't achieve anything.
Do you have a lot of staff members that have been with you a long time, apart from the family? Yeah.
The sort of value, the two main guys in the branches. Simon Joyce at Derby, 2001 he started. David Mason over at Burton started in '94 when the Burton branch opened. So they've been pretty much here from day one.
So let's roll the clock back 15, 16 years. What expectations did you have for your agency going forward 10, 20, 30 years? Where did you see yourself? I think
the first thing, I mean, I never really envisaged sort of 20, 30 years. I don't think at the time when you embark on something like this, it's something that you can look at that point. I think the first thing you want to say is, what did I want after 10 years, would be to still be in business. I think you've got to think that way, because that's what it's all about. Because
I think that I read somewhere that they reckon 80% of businesses go out of business after 5 years. I don't know if you've heard that one. Or...
Well, yeah, I mean that's it, because you know most of your capital, most of your risk is taken in that first part, and it's the hardest time that we found to sustain the business, because it's new, it's hard at that time, and in this industry you rely on attracting new landlords and new business, because without that database of properties and portfolio of landlords, it doesn't exist.
Do you think it's easier today than it was, or is it much harder?
It's harder. It is harder. You've only got to look at 6 agents compared to 60 agents. So, you know, there's another 54 agents that people can go to rent the house and let the house, other than ourselves.
I tell you what, if you were setting up your own agency today, you'd need your head looking at, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't do it, because I think a cold start in this environment is, I just could not see it actually working.
So, let's roll the clock back 2 years before we met. how were things in your agency at that time? How were your hopes, your fears, and your expectations that you had back in '99 being borne out? Was it the fields of clover that you thought it would be?
I think it's never the sort of fields of clover and you sit back and put your feet up. It's hard work, because it's the same as, I suppose, in a football thing. You win the league, and it's much harder to win it the year after. So it's that sustainability. It's all right getting to a certain level, but staying at that level and moving on from that level it's harder than getting there in the first place.
I mean, was it stressful? I mean, was the 2010, 11 and 12, 13, possibly 14, were they hard years for you?
I think, yeah, they're hard years, but I think you've got to look at it with a sense of achievement and enjoyment from our point of view. You've got to enjoy doing it, even though it's hard. We're husband and wife. We own the business, husband and wife. We both work within the business. Now, that's stressful in itself.
I work with my wife. It's hard work.
it is, because back in those early days, probably right up until the last 4 or 5 years, it's a no work policy at home. Some things need to be discussed, but you've got to be able to switch off. But it's all part of the journey, from our point of view, together. It's a thing that we've built ourselves. But going back to the sort of question. We sort of had steady growth up to what, 2010, 2011, but then it sort of tended to sort of plateau a bit. More agents coming into the market. The sales market obviously bottomed out sort of the sort of late noughties, as it were. A lot of agents decided to tag lettings onto their estate agency to sustain themselves and bolt it on. It became a sort of secondary importance to them, but did it to survive, I suppose. So more agents came into the market. So the growth slowed.
And how did you feel about
that? After we'd had a really good sort of a lot of years of a steady growth and thinking, yeah, this is great. That's when the concerns start coming back in. You start, we've got a lot of staff. We've taken on, enough staff to sustain the number of properties that we were looking after, and then you suddenly start thinking to yourself, if a lot of landlords left or whatever, where would you be? But it focuses you again. You always need a sort of a kick to keep you focused and carry on growing.
I mean, this almost leveling out or easing of growth, because all these agents were coming on, because there were in the 2010, 2009, 2011. Let's be honest, there's a hell of a lot of agents who were bringing on letting agencies just to bolster. That must have impacted on your business. Yeah,
it does. As I said, people have got more choice.
How many agents did you say there were in Derby?
There's 60 odd now.
60?
And all right, as I said before, one agent can have several branches, but it's still somewhere else that a landlord can go to. And agents do come into the market, cheap offers, no fees, 50% off for 6 months, all that. So it's all that to contend with.
Because haven't you got an agent in town that offers £35 a month, fully managed? That's cheap as chips, isn't it?
Actually, don't do them down. It's £36.
£36.
Yeah, £36. It is. It's one of those. I think it's up to a certain rental level, and then it increases. But there's agents out there advertising a lot less than £35. The new ones onto the market, so you have that to contend with. I mean, I know after being in it for 16 years that price isn't what the landlord or most landlords look at when they're choosing an agent. It's it's the service, it's the voids, it's everything, including the price. But at that time, you had that to contend with.
Why do you think agents do cheap fee deals?
Because they think it's the number one thing that landlords look for. It's seen as a quick, effective way of getting new business on quickly.
Tell me, do you think cheap fees work?
Personally, no. I think fees, cost has got to be switched round and looked at in terms of value. It's value for money. If I'm paying 40, 50 quid a month for a management of my property, am I getting value for money for it? It's not how much it's costing me really. It's what are they doing to look after my investment.
But you're talking like a letting agent there. Do you think landlords think that way?
Some don't. Otherwise, the agents out there that do charge the cheap fees wouldn't be around, and they still are, because they've got landlords who do think like that. I think looking at our portfolio and our spread and the number of landlords that we've looked after over the years and still look after, I think that's not their priority. The cost. We're good value for money. You know, we're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. We do a lot of research, and we provide a really good, excellent service for really good fees.
You get what you pay for in this world, though, don't you?
Of course, and sometimes it might take a while to realise that. But in this industry, I firmly believe that you get what you pay for.
Have you had landlords leave you for cheap fees and then come back?
Yeah, that's how it happens. Probably not so much now, because the new agents aren't cropping up as much, because we're in a sort of a saturated market, I suppose. But certainly, we had that a lot, and they come back. We welcome them with open arms. You know, it's not I told you so. It's that fantastic. Come back. We'll provide you with the same service that we were before.
Right, so let's come back. So what you were saying to me was probably in 2011, 12, 13, things had kind of, because of cheap fees, the number of agents going up from 6 to 60, you were finding it hard work, and basically you were getting some new business coming in, but obviously, like most letting agents, you tend to lose a bit out the back door, don't you?
Of course.
You were kind of like plateauing out. Let's roll the clock back, and we started working together almost 2 years ago.
Yep.
How many properties did you have under management then?
Late 900s, 960, 970.
Good stuff. And now, exactly 2 years later, what do you presently stand at?
Managed, we've got currently about 1120, with a further 30 that are available. So in total, 1150, 1160.
So in 2 years, you've grown from 950, 960 to around 1150 properties.
Yep.
And the 2 years before that, you'd kind of plateaued.
It grew slowly, but it had plateaued for the reasons already we've spoken about.
What are those extra 150, 200 properties in 2 years meant to you personally and to the business?
It's a satisfaction thing, because you know that your business is still performing. You know that you can attract landlords in a difficult market. You know that the service that you're providing is still making landlords talk about you. And come on board, even with all the other agents out there.
Where do you think those have they been new landlords or landlords with other agents?
It's a mixture. I think at the time there was a lot of the sort of accidental landlords that they're referred to in the market, where properties wouldn't sell, so they were sort of rented out. A lot of landlords became landlords without the intention of becoming landlords. A lot of those came with us. It slowed down where people were expanding the portfolios, possibly getting into sort of buy-to-let and investment properties, and you do take them off other agents.
So those extra 150, 200 properties, how's that affected your work-life balance?
Well, it helps. I mean, the way we look at it, we look at a certain staffing level. We all look at budgets, and and those extra properties in that period of time spurred us on to that next level. And I think when you're satisfied in your business that it's giving you everything that you need, you do have a better work-life balance. If it's all work, then because it's not achieving your expectations, then it gets very stressful. Those extra properties take the pressure off, as it does with any business, and it lets you enjoy it more.
You've gone from around 950 to 960 properties to around 1150 in 2 years. What happened 2 years ago?
You popped up on LinkedIn. Is the answer.
I'm all over it, aren't I? My friends keep telling me
your name popped up on LinkedIn, which I wasn't really into at the time, but you know, it was certainly quite new for me. Your name popped up. I clicked on your link, and thought, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. Been obviously probably the largest franchised letting agent in the country for a while, and thought, yeah, another eye on things, because you can get so blinkered on what you're doing within your own business. You should never be afraid of accepting a third eye, criticism, praise, whichever. It's all beneficial. So I think we sort of hooked up, had a chat.
Well, you came over for a coffee, didn't you, with your better half?
I did. We met in the Angel pub, had a coffee, discussed how we can move on to the next level. So
tell me what I said. What was discussed? What did we discuss at that meeting?
It gave me another approach to getting new business.
And in your words, what would that approach be?
It was less of a scattergun approach and more of a concentrated approach. Scattergun, I would sort of mean by, you know, sticking adverts in newspapers and hoping for the best. You're hoping that people read it. You're hoping that people call. Probably the same with a lot of magazines, stuff like that, because you've got no control about who's reading it.
So what exactly did I say I was going to do for you?
It was coming up with various methods of getting our name, our knowledge in front of the people that matter, the landlords, the people that work with landlords, the people that know landlords, and having a much more concentrated approach on advertising and marketing that traditionally is done in this industry.
But describe to me in your own words, I mean, in terms of what actually people, what were you advertising? Were you advertising landlords wanted adverts or things like that? Or we've obviously got these things here. I mean, tell me, what did that look like to the outside world?
I think we went with the flow. You sort of do things that other people do because you think that if you don't do it, then you're not going to pick up business. So
things like landlords wanted adverts.
Yeah, we did. You know, we had pages full of 36 properties with photos you couldn't see and text you couldn't read, interspiced with landlords wanted, tenants waiting, and all that. Which, you know, do people believe it? I don't know.
Tenants waiting is, I think, a classic one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tenants waiting. So that was your newspaper advertising. How did your newspaper advertising change? Describe to me what your newspaper advert looked like after the change.
As I say, we were like all the other agents, lots of properties on one page that you couldn't read, couldn't see, with a phone number and hope for the best. I mean, nowadays, I don't think any of our tenants came from the newspaper. It's a landlord orientated thing for brand awareness. So that being the case, if it's landlords that are reading it more than tenants or potential tenants, then what's the point of putting 36 properties with photos you can't see and text you can't read? Why not give the landlord something that's a lot more interesting about the area that they live in?
And what do you think does interest landlords? Section 8 versus Section 21 notices?
Yeah, they love those.
Sure, that's what they pay you for.
Not interested. Exactly. A landlord will not research what a Section 21 notice is when he's paying us to manage the property, because the assumption is that we know what we're talking about.
What does turn a landlord on, though?
Turn a landlord on, it's an investment. You know, landlords with mortgages on the property, they want the property rented out, they want the market rent, they want no hassle, they want no void periods or minimal void periods, and they want their agent, or this is how we see it, their agent to be an extension of themselves in how the property is looked after.
So, I mean, I've got a copy of your newsletter here, which is the same articles that go into your newspaper. And I see here that you're talking about what's happening in the property market in Derby. Is that what you think? That's what you've been putting in the newspaper? Is that what interests landlords? What's happening?
Yeah,
prices?
Just one point. We put that in the newspaper for 20 months, back from 2 years ago. We've actually stopped going in the newspaper now because we think, after a lot of research, that there's better ways, more productive ways of getting our information across to landlords, rather than that old scattergun approach, and we've seen no downturn in business whatsoever.
Interestingly, I don't know about you, but I think every town in the UK is different, and in some towns the newspaper has been absolutely amazing,
yep.
And in some towns it's been absolutely appalling. And I think what you always got to do is, I don't know about you, Darren, is you've got to almost have a holistic approach and try different things and what works, because this is your newsletter, which is the same articles that used to go into the newspaper.
Absolutely.
Go into a newsletter.
I mean, every time I go into a different town in the country, I do try and get a copy of the property section of the various newspapers. And as you say, some of them work really well, some of them look great. We just felt that around this area, it wasn't working for us.
Again, as you say, different people, different strokes. So this is your newsletters, which at the end of the day has articles that have been written about the Derby property market. You've been getting them out on social media as well.
Yep.
Solicitors, accountants, local businesses, that sort of thing.
Going back to our initial meeting, it's where do you want your articles, where do you want your name to be seen? And it's in front of landlords, or people that work with landlords, or people that are actually going to read the stuff. So yeah, it's trying to produce something on social media, in the newsletters. The printed word is still really valid in the right way. So accountants, solicitors, dentists, doctors, anywhere where you sit and read things, and it's been really good. We did a sort of survey of our last 3 months new instructions, new landlords coming on board, and 70% of them have read the articles via
70%.
70%. We do a lot. We try and get it out in as many different media as we possibly can. So 70% have seen the articles, the name somewhere, whether it's social media, whether it's printed. They're on the website. We do a digital version of the newsletter that we put out there, and they're the people that we're attempting to get our information in front of.
And let's be honest, it's talking about the Derby property market, and that's what interests people in Derby. I mean, I live in Grantham. I couldn't give a monkeys about Derby, but I can tell you here and now in Grantham, I care about Grantham. Yeah, I mean, where do most of your landlords live in Derby?
Well, you read the news, and the housing market is this, that, and the other. Yeah, but it's the UK. Now, most landlords in all of the country live in the area that they've got their investment properties. Not all, I appreciate that, but the majority. Therefore,
why do you think that is?
Well, they like to keep it close by, and it's the area that they know.
Yeah.
And if it's the area that they know, it's the area that they want to hear about. There's no point telling our landlords what the average price of a property is in London. It's pointless. It's of no interest, and they can't compare it to their own area. What they need to know is what's going on in the property market in Derby, where to buy, what to buy, what area is better than other areas, how prices have changed, how trends have changed. Everything about the property in the local area is of importance to homeowners, landlords, anybody property orientated.
So you basically got this newsletter and people come to you, but you also have a property blog where you've got all your backdated articles as well. And something else you also put in there is buy-to-let deals as well, where you think, do you get many visitors to your blog going to look at those sort of deals? And
yeah, as I say, as well as the articles in the printed form, we do write a blog. We do a lot of social media to point people to that blog. We've got a lot of stuff on Rightmove. We've taken the new Rightmove Optimizer package, which is really working really well.
I tell you what, I'm a big fan of Rightmove, especially their featured agent adverts. But I should have shares in it.
I hear so many people that give Rightmove a bad name. Yes, it's expensive. Goes back to the cost against value. Yes, it's expensive. We pay a lot of money to Rightmove, but that's where 85% of our leads come from. So why wouldn't you? I
mean, I've got a client down in Essex. The average amount of clicks a Rightmove featured agent advert has is 25 a month. He's getting up to 700 a month, but that's also sales as well. But you know, even some of my worst performing clients are getting 200-300 a month. It's all about choosing the right phrase, I think, and having the right sort of advert that makes people almost click on it.
It is. I think we at the moment have got the featured agent advert in 9-10 different towns, and that obviously that can be changed wherever you want to try and pick up new business or expand your portfolio. We point them to the blogs, we point them to the website, we point them to the digital newsletters, we swap it around, we see what works, we see what doesn't work, we see what feedback we get from landlords when we always speak to landlords. Have you seen the articles? Have you seen the blogs? Which is obviously where we get our stats from. So we swap it around, but every single time that we do something, we want it in front of a landlord, whether it's straight away via a third party or via somebody that they know. It's got to be in front of a landlord. 70% of your business are mentioning the blog, so I'm assuming you're just trying to sell yourself, aren't you? Sell, look how wonderful we are, look how, because you've got two offices, you've got David in one and Simon on the other. I assume you're just talking about sell. Not at all, quite the opposite. The sell route is landlords wanted cheap fees, etc. That's to me sell. What we're trying to do is we're trying to tell landlords that we're the expert in our area. We know what we're talking about, and if we know what we're talking about, we can look after their properties better. We can tell them what type of tenant needs to go in what type of property. We can tell them where to buy if they're looking to expand the portfolio. It's things like that it's knowledge. We're trying to impart knowledge onto landlords, and it's not to sell. It's letting them make their own mind up about which agent they should go to rent out their property. So in Derby you've got David, isn't it? Simon in Derby. David in Burton. So you've got Simon in Derby. Are people recognising him on the street as almost like a property guru now? It's funny. We saw a picture on Facebook 3 or 4 months ago where girls had gone out on a night out. We had Simon's caricature in the Derby window, and they're all there kissing his head, having a photo taken. So that sort of went on Facebook, very popular within the office. So yeah, people when he turns up at properties to do the valuations, it's like, it's you. I've seen you. You're on that newsletter. You're on that blog. It's you. All right, you're not a cartoon, but you're in real life. But it's you. So yeah, helps that he's been with us since 2001. But yeah, it's the people. We're not selling professional properties. We're not trying to get people, landlords to. It's a name. It's the people. It's the knowledge. It's the expertise that we're trying to say that this is why we can look after your property better than any other agent.
Have the guys on the front line found it easier to convert the properties because they're seen as property gurus?
Yes, the conversion rate from valuations to sort of new business has always been very good. It's increased since we've started this form of advertising, and it becomes a conversation. It becomes a conversation at the valuation, and it becomes a conversation on the phone when the landlord first contacts us. It's not, we want you to come round with 3 other agents to value our property. It's, I've seen your blog, I value the information that you put in it, I want you to come round. And other agents aren't mentioned anymore. It's like, I want you to come round and talk to me about why I should come to you to let my property. And that to us it's everything. It shows that the information that we're telling them through the various forms of media that we're using, they're taking it on board.
And fees an issue so much nowadays compared to, because you've got a lot of cheap agents in Derby, haven't you?
To be honest, it's not. Fees are all, they obviously get mentioned. People don't want to be ripped off. That's obvious. It's all about value, and when the landlords see the sort of stuff we write and the stuff that we know and the knowledge that we can impart, the fees become secondary because of the service that they get.
So we've been now nearly together for 2 years, and I've been ghostwriting your articles for you and giving you advice and opinion, and in that time your managed stock has gone from 960 to around 1130, 1150. How's that changed your life?
Well, it certainly gives us a determination to carry on, knowing that we can still attract landlords in a tough market. It's obviously increased our profitability, it's increased our turnover, it's enabled us to sort of pass some of that on to the staff, without whom we'd have not a business. It's helped the work-life balance. Every new property is an achievement. They have a bell, they have a hand bell in each office. So every time we let a property, it rings. The manager rings it. Every time we get a new instruction, it rings. And it's what it's all about. It's one property, but it's growth, and that's what we're all about. We want to build our portfolio, and what we're doing is doing that.
And do you think you could have done that growth without landlord farming and the article writing?
I think we'd have probably had some generic growth, probably to the same levels we'd had in the sort of 2 or 3 previous years. But I'm fairly confident if we hadn't changed our approach and we hadn't done this, then we'd have probably continued at a sort of a plateau with small growth.
What would you say to any agent at the moment who's finding it really hard to get new stock?
Be prepared to do something different. Be prepared to try and tell landlords what they want to hear. Don't just rely on cost cutting. The same old adverts that you see out there. We still go to available properties for viewings with compliment slips through the door from other agents saying, "Ring me for a special offer." Landlords, we don't think they do that anymore.
Well, do you lose anything? You can't. Do you lose that much? Have you lost that much over this?
Most of the stuff that goes off the back end is due to landlords selling.
So those slips are almost irrelevant.
Well, you can't do anything about those because if a landlord wants to sell, it's nothing we can do.
So if you strip those out, probably
a lot of them do come back to us because they can't sell. So then we get the another 6-month, 12-month tenancy, waiting for better times. But yes, we do lose properties because they're being sold.
So really, apart from those sold ones, those sort of marketing techniques don't work anymore, do they?
Sorry, which?
What, the leaflets through the door saying landlords wanted, or I've got a special deal for you. They don't work anymore, do they? Well, obviously they don't, because you've not lost much.
No, I mean, no. And I think for stuff like that, the resource is high. for people to go out and put that sort of stuff. It very rarely gets in front of the landlord because you're posting it through the letterbox of an empty property, so it just gets picked up in the junk mail. We've taken the view that there's a lot better ways of using our resource, our time, our efforts to actually give landlords what they want and let them make up their own mind, not trying to force professional properties down their throats.
Because you're not selling, you're almost telling, aren't you? You're giving the landlords of Derby, and obviously the same one for Burton-on-Trent, property information that's of interest to them. You're grabbing them they're grabbing their attention. You're being interesting, and looking at the figures, you've got nearly 200 extra properties in 2 years, which at the end of the day has meant you've got a better work-life balance. You're earning more money. The staff, you've got more staff, which, let's be honest, there's never enough staff, or colleagues, as I think they like to call them. Yep. What do you call them?
Colleagues.
Colleagues.
Yeah.
It's been really fun working with you, and I hope that we can continue working on in the future. Because at the end of the day, it's great talking about the Derby property market, and it's quite obviously work for you.
Absolutely, and it's always been in that position to do different things and be sort of very, very satisfied when they work, because it's people. And when landlords tell us that they're reading our stuff, they like reading our stuff, and that's why they've picked us. And at the end of the day, you can't get a better compliment than that.
No, you can't.